Write this down if you've got a pen and paper, or record it on your phone with your thumbs. Don't rely on your mind to remember it. You won't remember it. You'll forget it. But if you want maximum value in any area of life, raise your hand if you're in business. Raise your hand if you're in business. Raise your hand if you're working, earning an income. Cool. Raise your hand if you're in a relationship. Raise your hand if you are, if you're a student. If you're a student, raise your hand if you're a human being. All right, good. Make sure everyone's got their hand up, right? So now, it doesn't matter where you operate. It doesn't matter what environment you frequent. If you use these 5 rules for the game of life, then you've got a very good chance of winning the game at the highest level. If you play these 5 rules and you play them to the best of your ability, your chances for succeeding in life will go up tenfold. Right? I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that most people are living their life at 30 or 40%. It's the truth. And some people are lower. Some people are just tolerating. They're tolerating stuff. And you get what you tolerate in life, my friends. You get what you tolerate. So if you don't like what you're getting, you need to raise your tolerance to a higher level. You need to raise your standard, in other words. So these are the 5 rules for getting the maximum value out of tonight and maximum value out of your life, in every area of your life. Number 1, play full out. Play full out. That means play at 100%. I told you that I've been traveling since 3 a.m. on Monday morning. I got back to London at midday on Monday. I didn't sleep while I flew, because I don't really sleep when I fly. What I was doing was reading and writing. And then when I got to London at midday on Monday, I had to wait at the airport for an hour because one of my team that I was giving him a lift home, his bag didn't arrive. So I only got home at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, because I live in Oxfordshire, out of London. So by the time I drove from the airport to my place, it was 3 p.m. I didn't get to sleep until 1 a.m. on Tuesday morning, right? And then I was up at 4:30. I woke up at 4:30 and I was alive with ideas, and I got up. When I wake up in the morning, I get up. I don't go back to sleep. Doesn't matter what time it is. So I got up at 4:30 and I started writing. So, and I tell you that because even though I'm feeling tired physically, while we are together tonight, I'm going to give you 100% of what I got. And I want the same from you. So play full out. By playing the game full out, you'll get more value. You'll enjoy it more. You'll have more fun. You'll feel better. Yes? Number 2, be flexible. Be flexible. Flexibility is power. Flexibility is power. Is there any chance we can put some more lights on here? These lights here. It's a bit dark here in the front, please. These ones on the pillars here. Thanks, Sarana. And so be flexible. Flexibility is power. The more flexible, that's much better. Thank you. The more flexibility you have, the more chances you have of being able to turn challenges or trauma or adversity into possibility. That's what flexibility does for people. Flexibility allows people who are going through the toughest experience in life to turn them into a profit. The less flexibility you have, the less chance you have of turning something around to your advantage. Because you have only one way of doing something. You've got no flexibility. And you're rigid. And when you're rigid and you encounter a storm, the storm of life, there's lots of storms in life. If you're rigid, the storm will break you. And if you are broken, as most people are by the storms of life, in other words, what happens is they're emotionally broken or psychologically broken or financially broken. They very seldom recover because they lack flexibility. And when they don't recover, what they do is they end up spending their life bitter and suffering. And they become a victim. Raise your hand if you know somebody like this. Yeah, look around the room. Most people's hands up. We all know someone like this. Don't be one of those people. So be flexible. Number 3, take responsibility. Take responsibility. Make a commitment to take 100% responsibility in your life. 100%. That means you got to own everything. Even all the shit. You got to own it. Because no one gave it to you. You created it. So you might as well own it. It's only by owning it can you change it. If you blame other people, you can never change your life. So take 100% responsibility, and especially tonight. Take 100% responsibility for what you get tonight. If you leave this room tonight and you say, that wasn't so good, I didn't really get what I came for, it's because you didn't play the game full out. Because I know I'm going to. And if you play full out, then we'll get an amazing result, you and me together. Number 4 is be a team player. Be a team player. Commit to being a team player. Wherever you find yourself, you'll find yourself on a team. Even if you're alone, you're still on a team of one. And it's not a one, it's you and the universe. So you're never alone. So wherever you are, be a team player. Now you're in a room like this. This is a team here. We're a team, we're together. Now, how many of you came here alone tonight? Raise your hand if you came here alone. For you, the possibilities are endless. Anything could happen for you. You might meet your next lover here, right? You could meet your next partner. You could meet a JV here, right? Anything's possible for you. So, be a team player. Team means T-E-A-M. Together, everyone achieves more. So when you play the game together, everybody rises together. So rising tide lifts all boats. So, number 5 is my favorite one. Have fun. Have fun. So, raise your hand if you like having fun. Keep your hand up. Okay, I'm a bit worried about some of you already. You're like this. You can see my face, I'm Mr. Fun. I love having fun. Yeah, it's all good. I'm fine. Yeah? If you like having fun, you should be like this. That's what fun looks like. Yeah, right. So, we're going to have some fun tonight, right? So, energy is everything, right? And everything is energy, yes?
Just a quick one. I see loads of you guys taking the phones to record what Allan is doing. So, I have a better plan for you. Are you team players? Who's a team player here? Put your hand up. Super. So, what I've done for you, I set up a live on Facebook right now on my page. So all you have to do, you don't have to record anything. All you have to do is just go on my page, like it, comment, share. Everybody will have access to that, okay? So you'll have it as long as my phone lasts.
Very cool. Very cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susanna. And so, energy is everything and everything is energy. Raise your hand if you agree. Yeah. Nothing exists without energy. You can't create energy, you can't destroy it. It never disappears. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Never disappears, can't create it, can't destroy it, but it's in everything. You can't live without it. And yet, most people never really use the energy that's available to them, to the degree that they can use it. Think about it, you were given the most powerful gift ever. The most powerful gift that you could ever be given, right? The ability to turn the invisible into the visible. There's no better gift. You can turn the invisible into the visible by using this stuff called energy. Now, how many of you are actually using it effectively? Be honest. Raise your hand if you believe you're using it effectively in your life. It's 10 people. Thank you for being honest. Most people don't. Now, that's not because there's something wrong with them or because they're not intelligent. It's just because most people don't really understand. And maybe they don't have access to the right information, or maybe not hanging around in the right environment, or whatever it is. But sometimes there comes a moment in your life where you find yourself in a room like this, and there are no accidents. If you look under your chair's got your name on it. The chair knew you were coming. It was expecting your bum in that seat. You don't need to look under your chair, I'm joking. But what I mean by that is there's no accidents, right? You suddenly find yourself in a room like this. How many of you had plans to do something else tonight, but now you're here tonight, you don't even know how you got here? Raise your hand. Yeah, there's no accidents, right? Because there's a part of you, what I call your authentic self, your higher self, your authentic self, that knows exactly what you want to do on this planet. It knows why you're here, and it brought you to this place tonight. Even if your conscious critic is not available right now, it doesn't understand what happened, or you think it's accidental. There's no accidents. Everything is coincidental, and coincidental does not mean accidental. Coincide is mathematical, and the term coincide comes from mathematics. And in other words, for two things to coincide at a particular point in space and time, there has to be perfection, precision, because there has to be 1,000 things happen before those two things coincide at that moment in time. So the fact that you are sitting in this room right now, 1,000 things had to happen to bring you to this point right now, even more possibly, 100,000 things. But you take it for granted. And then you miss the opportunity because you don't recognize that it's divine. Everything is divine. So tonight, grab this opportunity with both hands. Make notes, engage, have fun. Talk to your neighbor when I ask you to. Really play full out. Be flexible, take responsibility, be a team player, and let's have some fun together, right? Energy is everything, and everything is energy. Now, when I started studying this information as a young man, it blew my mind. You've got access to 3 minds. 3 minds, right? You've got access to the mind on 3 levels. Now, very quickly, just point to where your mind is. Quick, point to your mind. So most of you do this, right? When I ask you to point to your mind. This is your head. Inside your head is your brain. There's no mind here. The mind is everywhere. Everything is the mind. It's called universal mind. There's only one mind. It's universal mind. Or you could call it energy, or you could call it infinite intelligence, or you could call it God, or you could call it Allah, you could call it whatever you want to, but it's the same thing. The fact that we have insistently put names on these things for thousands of years is because we don't understand it truly. If we understood it truly, we wouldn't give it a name like, you know, all these names that we give it, and we wouldn't try and put it in boxes. We wouldn't try and understand it, because you can't understand it with a conscious mind, because the conscious mind is very limited. So you have access to the mind on 3 levels. The first level is the conscious level. In other words, we plug into the mind. Just like I plugged my laptop into this wall, we plugged in constantly. You can't see your cable, but you're always plugged in. Now, the level of your plug, the level of your connection really depends on how well you look after yourself, and how well you look after your mind, and how well you look after your connection. If you don't look after your connection, and you don't look after your body, and you don't look after your mind, then your connection is weak and rusted, and you will only attract at a certain level, and you will attract a lot of shit as well as a lot of good. Maybe sometimes not such good stuff, but a lot of crap. Because your connection is not clean, your connection is not pure, you haven't maintained it. The conscious mind is creative by nature. It's creative by nature. What does that mean? It means simply that when you were born, you were given this amazing conscious mind, this access to the conscious mind, which is creative by nature. Which means you can use something called the imagination. Fantastic faculty of the brain and the mind that you can actually close your eyes and you can see a picture on the screen of your mind. Any picture you want, at any time. That's called magic. No production company, no cinema in the world, no filmmaker in the world can do what your mind can do. No studio can do what your mind can do. It doesn't matter how clever the equipment is. You can close your eyes and you can see any picture of any type at any time. You can put yourself on a beach in Hawaii, just like that, boom. And the beauty about it is that your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined. It doesn't understand that it's not real. It just sees the picture. And your brain works with pictures, feelings, and words. So you've got a conscious, creative mind, creative by nature. However, through nurture, it's become critical. Raise your hand if you're a parent. Keep your hand up nice and high if you're a parent. Parents, me included, and I'm speaking to myself now too, and I always speak to myself just as well as I speak to the audience, right? Because I must also listen. If you're a parent, stop teaching your kids to be critical. Stop today. Cut that shit right out. You are projecting your own criticism onto your children. You're projecting your own belief system onto your children. You're projecting your own fears onto your children. And they're going to grow up to be exactly the same way. And have the same fear that you have. And the same criticisms that you have. So stop that shit. Because what happens is, they have a creative mind, children. And we all have one, but children are especially creative when they're young. But as soon as they start growing up, we start putting them in a box. We put them in a box. Why? Because it's easier for us to control them. Because we don't like to have to deal with their imagination. We don't have to deal with, chase them around and do all kinds of stuff. And in supermarkets, we don't want them touching things and putting things in their mouth. So we tell them, don't, no. By the time they're 21, they've seen the word and heard the word no over 250,000 times. And you wonder why people are disempowered as adults. So be creative. Wake your creative genius up and shut the critic down. You want to put this critic to sleep, right? What is criticizing? Criticizing is any time you evaluate anything in a negative fashion. Now, here's the interesting thing about the brain. Whatever it sees, it evaluates. Whatever your eyes land on, it's evaluating constantly. You're constantly evaluating. Oh, I don't like the look of that. Oh, that smells, that looks weird. She's too fat. I don't like those shoes. Oh, this place is dirty. Oh, it stinks around here. It's constantly. Blah, 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 blah. 60 to 90,000 thoughts passing through your head every 24 hours while you're awake and asleep. And most of it is negative. Complaining, resisting, evaluating all the time. So you're criticizing everything. And if you're criticizing what you see, you can't be creative. Your genius is sleeping. Sometimes, if you listen carefully, it says, "Psst, I've got an idea." Psst. But your critic is so loud you can't hear it. Right? So you're going to put this to sleep. If you're a parent, stop doing that for your children. Stop allowing them to see your own criticisms. Don't project your fear onto your kids. I had the same thing when I was growing up. My parents did the same thing to me. I didn't know it until I started studying psychology. But then what I did was I made a decision. I said, when I'm going to be a father, I'm not going to do that. That's for sure. I'm going to tell my kids they can do whatever they want to. I'm going to tell them I'm going to remind them how confident and how creative they are and how magical they are. I don't tell my kids what to do. But I do give them parameters for being effective. And I do teach them between the difference between what's right and wrong, obviously, at the basic level. And I've given them great values, or I hope I have. I've given them the best values that I could give them. And I've taught them about how to be effective in life and etc. But at the end of the day, I know they're going to make their own mistakes. And it's up to them to make the mistakes. It's not my job to make their mistakes. I can't live their life for them. They can go out and do whatever they want to make mistakes. But I gave them some rules. I said, number 1, play full out. Number 2, be flexible. Number 3, take responsibility for everything. Don't blame anyone else if you make a mistake and it doesn't go right. Be a team player and have fun. Same rules that I gave you. Since my son was 12, he's been changing what he wants to do every year for the last 4 years now. Every year changes. First it was, I want to be a YouTuber. I said, cool. As long as you do it 100%, do whatever you want. Then the next year, Dad, I want to be a doctor. Fantastic. I like it. As long as you do 100%. Next year, Dad, I want to be a lawyer. Fantastic. Then it was a surgeon. Now it's a psychologist. Changes all the time. So, same thing to my daughter. She's 13. She'll be 14 in December. Say the same thing to her. Do whatever you want to do. As long as you play 100%. Don't blame anyone else. Be flexible. Be a team player. And have fun. Now, the second access that you have to the mind is the unconscious mind. Unconscious mind. This is the part of your mind that does whatever you want it to do. It's waiting for you to tell it what to do. It's like a magic genie. The problem is that you're giving it the wrong directions. So it's not helping you. It's working against you. So what you want to do is you want to use your unconscious mind as effectively as possible You want to use your unconscious mind as effectively as possible by making it your partner in success. So first thing is just to affirm that, right? Say, wow, I've got this amazing unconscious mind. What can it do? It can do amazing stuff. First of all, it stores everything I've seen, everything I've felt, everything I've smelt, everything I've touched, everything I've heard, everything I've seen and experienced is stored in my unconscious. I haven't forgotten everything. I haven't forgotten one thing since I was in my mother's womb. Same as you. But the problem is you can't recall it at will. You can't recall it whenever you want. You can't remember everything because most of that stuff while you were experiencing it, you were half asleep anyway. You were unconscious. You weren't paying attention. And you can't remember everything because it's impossible to be able to remember all that kind of stuff, right? Because you'd be overwhelmed by too much information. So you only remember what's important for you based on what? On what you're going to learn next. Based on your need to avoid pain. Your need to avoid pain. Because that's what drives human beings. How can I avoid pain? Because your brain is wired like that. That's how your brain, it's a 2 million year old brain. It's a primitive brain. We live from the reptilian part of our brain most of the time. How can I avoid stress? How can I avoid this pain? How can I avoid this heartache? I don't want to make a mistake. Shit, I better not fall down. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want anyone to laugh at me. And your mind's doing the same thing. Your ego wants to be right all the time. All the time. Looking for safety all the time. So you're trying to avoid pain all the time. So you can't use the unconscious mind effectively. Now, if you just start to recognize that this is your partner in success, and you start saying that to yourself, my unconscious mind is my partner in success. My unconscious mind is my partner in success. And you start encouraging your creative, and you make a decision to stop criticizing everything you see, especially yourself. especially yourself. Because the most important thing you say are the things you say to yourself about yourself. Because you're listening. Right? So if you make a decision to stop criticizing and just start to accept what shows up and look for the opportunities in whatever shows up and look for the ways to turn them around to profit yourself and other people, then things will start happening for you properly. Why? Because you are a magnificent magnet. You're a magnet. You're created by nature. You're co-creating with the universe. You can take the invisible and turn it into the visible just by seeing it in your mind and breathing life into it and adding emotion to it, and eventually it becomes real. There was no such thing as chairs a long time ago. We used to sit on the floor or sit on trees. And then somebody said, hey, hang on a second, I want to sit on a chair. I'm going to make 4 legs, it's going to be comfortable. I'm going to make this thing come out so I can lift my legs up. I'm going to put vibrators in it so it can massage me at the same time. Yeah? Everything was an idea. It first popped into someone's head, and then they made it real by using this part of their mind and using this part of the mind too. Then you got the third area, access to the third area of the mind, which is the superconscious. The superconscious part of the mind. This is where your genius lives. Everybody's got a genius. Everybody is a genius. How many of you have, you think, well, I'd like to consider myself as being a genius, but I mean, is it true really? I mean, like, that guy's a genius. That guy that I saw on TV, he's a genius. That Steve Jobs, that guy was a genius. That Bill Gates, I mean, that's a genius. Stephen Hawking, I mean, Oprah Winfrey, but not me. Raise your hand if you ever have that kind of conversation for yourself. Yeah, so that's where you're making your first mistake. Everybody's a genius, right? Everybody. Because you have an ability in you to become a genius, and whatever you focus on, whatever you put your mind to, especially if it makes you excited, everybody's got an ability to be a genius. If you focus enough and you use what's already available inside of you, your creative nature, and you use the tools that you were given in the right way, then anybody can be a genius. If you spend enough time practicing and mastering something, you can become a genius. So this superconscious, where you have access to the superconscious, what this means literally is you have access to everything, the universal mind. You got access to the mind at the highest level. And what happened? It's gone offline. Battery? The battery flat? So can you hear me? So you got access to the universal mind, right? That means you got access to the divine cosmos. And nothing happens by accident. Everything is connected, everything is divine, it's magical. And we've forgotten about it. See, the problem is the kind of life we live in, the world we live in today, right? The way we live, the Western world, supply and demand, profit, loss, materialism, all that kind of stuff, ego, significance. The way we live now is we've actually tuned ourselves out of the fact, tuned ourselves out of the truth that we are magical. But if you get present to that every day, and you just keep reminding yourself that you're magical, and you are tapped in and tuned in and turned on anytime you want to be, then amazing things will flow to you. They'll flow to you. They'll start happening. Things will start happening. Now, will it be easy? No. Because you will encounter challenges. Because often when you make a decision to change something in your life, immediately you experience a challenge. Immediately. If you make a decision to get rich, immediately you get present to the fact you're broke. And a part of you says, I'm going to be rich. And another part of you says, yeah, but we're broke. Yeah? So immediately you get present to what's missing when you focus on what you want. But that's your opportunity to continue to experience yourself as what you say you want. That's the paradox, right? You've got to continue to experience yourself as what you want, as what you believe you can be, in spite or in the midst of whatever's going on in the moment. So even though you're missing it right now, you still got to pretend that you're experiencing it. Because you can only feel it when you raise the vibration. And you can only attract it when you raise the vibration. And it's emotion that attracts it. The right type of emotion. Not anger, not frustration, not overwhelm. The right type of emotion. Love, gratitude, peace, joy, ecstasy. These are emotions that attract. There's other emotions that repel. Most people spend their life in emotions that repel. And they wonder why things keep going wrong. Because they spend too much time in emotions that repel. Raise your hand if you spend a lot of time stressed about something or anything. How many of you stress about the same thing regularly, like regularly throughout the week, maybe 4 or 5 times a week, the same kind of thing? It could be money, it could be a relationship, it could be a health, whatever it is. If you spend too much time with those emotions, then what's going to happen is not only will you repel what you want, you will flood your body with 1,200 negative chemicals. When I say negative, they're good in the short term, but if you spend too much time with them, they actually do your body a tremendous amount of damage, which is why people get sick and die before their time. And they'll be looking for all these cures and be pumping money into all these charities, etc., and nobody's getting better. Because it doesn't matter how much money you pump into a charity, nothing changes until you change your mind. Doesn't matter how much medicine you take. Medicine won't help you until you change what's inside. You've got to shift your perception first. When you change what you're looking at, the thing you're looking at will change. It's right in front of your eyes. And you'll call it a miracle. But it's not a miracle. All it is a simple shift in perception, which is a miracle in itself. Being able to shift away from negative to positive, from hate to love, from anger to appreciation, from expectation to appreciation. That's a miracle, just shifting your mind like that. Is it easy? No. Is it simple? Yes. Some of you, when I say that, your face frown. What do you mean? Easy? Simple? I mean, isn't it the same thing? No. It's simple because it requires a strategy and it requires a set of steps. When something is simple, it means there's 5 steps. If I showed you 5 steps and I said, walk these 5 steps every day, walk them every day without fail, 3 times a day, 10 times a day. And if you walk these 5 steps 3 to 10 times a day, every single day, then you're going to get an amazing result. Now, part of you is going to say, what? Just these 5 steps? Yeah, for sure. That sounds easy. But when you wake up in the morning and you've got to get out of bed and walk the 5 steps, the little ego in your head or the little critic in your head says, hey, it's okay, stay in bed today. You don't need to do that today. Chill out, lie in. Take a load off. Put your feet up. Hey, watch TV. Do it tomorrow. Raise your hand if you understand what I mean. Yes. Exactly. So, when you are lying, can we get some batteries, please? I don't have a voice.
We have the batteries.
I lost my voice on Sunday. It's just started coming back. Is it coming, batteries?
We have the batteries.
Oh, can you put them in, please? No, I can't like this. It's going to work like 2 hours. So, when you align those 3 minds, right? When you align these 3 minds, and you bring them into alignment, then you will find that you are a super channel of powerful energy. And you'll have unlimited amounts of energy. Unlimited amounts of energy. And things will become effortless for you. Effortless. Life is an acronym. I love words, right? And letters. But when you take the word life, L-I-F-E, life, it means life is finally effortless. When you can get to that level, then things will flow to you in abundance. And you'll say something like this to yourself. You say, wow, that tap is flowing. I mean, like, where was this flow like 5 years ago, right? It's just like coming in abundance. Because it'll feel like it. But you've got to do the work to make it happen. Now, the reason it's not easy is because people are their own worst enemy. Because they talk themselves out of things all the time. Because they don't want to be doing anything that's uncomfortable. Oh, God, I want to be rich, but can't you just give me the money? I don't have to work for it. That's what people tell me all the time. They say, I want to be rich. I say, good. Okay, good. This is what you have to do. If you do this, and you've got to do it 1,000 times a day. You've got to do it 10,000 times. You've got to keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. And you know what? It may take you 20 years. And you see their face change. 20 years? Oh my God, really? Isn't there a quick way? Isn't there an easy way to get rich? Thank you. Isn't there an easier way to get rich? I want to get rich yesterday. Just show me the shortcut. How many of you have ever tried shortcuts to getting rich? Raise your hand, be honest. How many of you have tried like 100 ways to get rich, shortcuts? Like you keep looking at shortcuts, you see another thing, isn't it? And a new shiny penny every day, right? There's no easy way, right? You've got to go through the work. Everyone has to go through the work. Why? Why do you have to do it like this way? This is the way it's designed. Because when you came to this earth and you manifested in this body, what happened was this spirit, this energy, this like, universal energy decided to manifest in your mother's womb, in your body. And now suddenly there's a spark, now the baby's growing, then you come out. You came here with a spiritual curriculum. You came here with an agenda. Your soul came with an agenda. And you got access to these 3 minds. And you've got to learn how to use them effectively so you can become more of who you really are. Rather than just fitting into a box and becoming a stereotype. And letting the environment that you grow up in mold who you become. and determine who you become. And you know, and everybody does this. Most people do it, right? They say, oh, it wasn't my fault. I didn't have any parents when I was young. It wasn't my fault. I grew up broke. It wasn't my fault. My parents lost their home. It wasn't my fault. There was a war in my country. It wasn't my fault. The government sucked. It wasn't my fault. The president was an arsehole. They look for all the reasons why they don't have what they want, instead of recognizing that they came with everything they need already inside of them, and now it's just a case of exercising it and learning how to use it properly. So until they become this amazing manifester. That's what you came to do, is to learn how to manifest your dreams. But you have to use the equipment you were given. And that takes work. There's no easy way. Is it easy? No. Is it worth it? Oh yes. Definitely. Definitely worth it. Because when you start using it effectively, you start seeing the results regularly, you become proud of yourself, you start feeling good. You start becoming more excited about life. You start looking forward to Mondays. In fact, eventually, there is no such thing as Monday. It's just called today. You become excited. And eventually you get to a place where you start being more excited about challenges, because you know that you start trusting yourself. How many of you want to trust yourself more? Raise your hand if you want to trust yourself more. Being able to trust yourself requires confidence. But when you trust yourself, that means that no matter what goes wrong, you'll work it out. You'll work it out. People say, what happens if I lose my home? You'll work it out. What happens if I lose my business? You'll work it out. I might go broke. So what? You'll work it out. I'll go bankrupt. Doesn't matter. You'll work it out. But you've got to learn to see the gift in that experience. People don't want those kind of experiences. Why? Because they're too painful. And they saw it happen to someone else, their parents or their grandfather or something, or they heard about it, or they read about it, or they learned about this fear when they were young. This thing about pain. So, raise your hand if you have a dream, or you have more than one dream. You're very excited about dreams that you have in your mind. Awesome. Fantastic. So, if you've got dreams, and I've got a question for you. Everyone's got dreams, right? Everybody. Let's use a different pen. Everyone has dreams. Everybody. The difference between most people, though, when I talk about most, I'm talking about most people. The difference between most people and people who achieve their dreams. People who achieve their dreams, the difference between those people, that group, and the people who are always thinking about dreaming, or achieving their dreams, or wishing they could achieve their dreams, what's the difference? Well, if you take the percentages, it's usually 97% versus 3%. 3% of every generation, of every, around the world, human population, since the beginning of research, the research has been done, and usually it's about 3% of our population that lives their dreams on their own terms. 97% of people are not. What's the difference? One thing. Only one thing. The way they process information. The way they process experience. The way they process their life experience, the events, the circumstances. That's what it comes down to, is how you process. If you process ineffectively, then what you'll do is you won't live your dreams. You'll just be stuck in this area here, right? Which is SEEs. SEEs. You'll be stuck in an area in your mind where you'll always have a story about why you don't live your dreams, or why it's not happening for you. And you'll justify it in your own mind. You say, school's not my fault. And you let yourself off the hook instead of being honest. You say, you know what? It's not happening because I'm not pulling my finger out my ass. Because I'm afraid. When you can be that kind of honest with yourself, then things can change. SEEs are significant emotional events. Significant emotional events. We've all had them. And what significant emotional events do is they help you to form something called a paradigm. A paradigm, which is a unique way of seeing the world. A unique way of seeing the world. Everybody has a paradigm. It's your own filter, and you filter everything through your paradigm. You filter it through your paradigm, your experience of life. And this paradigm is made up of a collection of beliefs. Mostly, collection of beliefs. Decision-making process, identity, self-image, self-concept, all of that makes up your paradigm. But it's supported or held up by your belief system. Now, the interesting thing about belief system or beliefs is that if you look at the word belief, there's 3 letters there in the middle called L-I-E, which is a lie. And that's what most beliefs are. Most beliefs are lies. Most beliefs that your parents told you when you were a kid were lies. They didn't tell you lies intentionally to hurt you. They told you that shit because someone told them when they were kids, and they believed it. And they never stopped believing it their whole life. And so they fed it to their children. And that's what's been happening for generation after generation. People feed the same shit to their kids every generation. They wonder why people don't change. So there comes a time in your life, my friends, where you have to stand up and look in the mirror. And you've got to have a conversation with the person in the mirror. And you've got to say, am I being effective or ineffective? And there's only one answer. It's yes or no. There's no middle ground. You're either effective or ineffective. It's one or the other. And if you're honest, you might say I'm being ineffective, which means you can be even more effective than you are being currently. And when you make the decision to become more effective, and you start looking at what's happening inside your head and what's happening inside your body, then anything becomes possible. It's just a matter of time. That's all it is. It's just time. You just got to put the work in. But nothing changes until you have that conversation and you get honest. So when you have this paradigm, which is your filter, and you filter everything around you through your paradigm, and your brain's always asking questions as you filter things. What does this mean? What should I do? What does this mean? What should I do? You see something happens, and your brain says, what does it mean? What should I do? And what you do, the action you take, depending on the experience and the circumstance or the event at a particular moment in time, will determine what you focus on and what you believe about yourself, and the language you use on a habitual basis. So we think we live in real time, but we don't live in real time. We live a nanosecond behind real time. Real time is occurring around us, and then we represent it on the screen of our mind, and we make a decision about it. And it's all encompassed in this desire to avoid pain. Because we learned a long time ago that pain is very uncomfortable. A significant emotional event. Any type of event that impacts you emotionally, deeply, it's significant. Even though you've forgotten what happened 30 years ago, you haven't forgotten about how it makes you feel. And anything that resembles that experience, that triggers that same emotion in you, makes you extremely uncomfortable. Raise your hand if you understand what I mean. Thank you. So, now, what happens during this process is you start to form something called a false definition of reality. You start to form something called a false definition of reality. Now, how does this happen specifically? And let me tell you why this is important. This is very important because you have this brain, right? This amazing brain. And it's designed to take information and process it so you can now create a result. The favorable result. But we are overloaded with emotion and overloaded with information. And there's so much information all the time. I mean, there's the lights, the camera here. I can hear the sound of the camera. There's the sound of the speakers. There's all these things that you focus on. Plus, you're not even focusing on the fact that there's blood flowing through your ear, that you're a little bit warm, that maybe you're sweating under your arm. All of those things, you block that stuff out, right? Because you want to focus on one thing so you can pay attention to what's happening right in front of you, which is listen to my voice. But there's so many other things that are competing for your attention. So what you do is you learn to delete, distort, and generalize information. So you just block out what you don't need, you delete stuff, you distort it, and you generalize all that stuff. You learn to do this very early on when you're young. As a result of deleting, distorting, and generalizing information, there are experiences in your life or circumstances or events that have occurred where you made the wrong decision about it. You made an incorrect assumption. Something happened and you thought it meant something, but you weren't accurate. You gave it a disempowering meaning. Somebody said something and in your head you heard something else. Somebody did something and in your mind you saw something else. You gave it an incorrect assumption, an incorrect meaning. Raise your hand if you know exactly what I mean now. Yes, because human beings are meaning-making machines. We give meaning to everything. We can't help it. It's just the way we are. Something happens, this means that. Somebody says something to you in your head, you say, she means I'm an arsehole, right? I know that's what she's saying about me, then you get angry about it. Meantime, she didn't even say that. Or you see something and you make it mean something, and it's not true. You've got what happened and your interpretation of what happened. And they're two very different things. Because you delete, distort, and generalize. And you do it in order to do what? To avoid pain. Now, where does this pain start? Very early on. From the moment you are born. And even before you're born. While you're in your mother's womb. If your mother is going through a very stressful time, financially, emotionally, getting abused by her husband, getting beaten by her husband, broke on the street, can't eat, that emotional intensity is being passed to the fetus. Now, when you're born, as soon as you're born, your mother holds you for the first time, there's a flood of oxytocin, There's a serotonin. It's the love drug, right? Bonds a mother with a child. It's the strongest bond there is. And we are the only species on this race that are dependent on our mother for at least 18 years. Some people longer. Some people longer, right? But that means that we can't live without them when we're kids, right? But you look at every other animal in the animal kingdom, and as soon as they're born, it's like you're on your own now. Look after yourself. You learn to walk by yourself. You learn to feed yourself. You can't do that with human beings. Because if you do that with babies, they'll die. In fact, even if you don't touch a baby when they're born, if you don't touch them, they die. They did an experiment like that, and babies died. Horrible experiment. They discovered that babies die when you don't touch them. So you have to be looked after. You have to be touched. You need that connection. But as soon as you lose that connection, so imagine you suck in your mother's bosom, and you get taken off the bosom because your mother's tired. She's got a sore nipple, and she wants to sleep, and you start crying because you're still hungry. You start already making an assumption about that, even in your young mind, even in your tiny little head. Now, this happens with, you see, I've done this work with so many people now over the last 19 years, right? But you can take people back to a moment in their life when they were very young, 2 weeks of age, 3 months old, 6 months old. And although they can't remember it now consciously, as soon as you put their conscious mind into a semi-meditative state and you talk directly to the unconscious, when they're in a very relaxed state, they remember it like that. They can tell you what it smelled like, they can remember the colors, they remember it so clearly because it's in the unconscious. And oh my God, I remember 2 weeks of age, 2 weeks old. I was on my mother's bosom, I was feeling love, it was amazing. I was thinking, oh my God, this is an amazing world, there's just so much bright noise and color and it's just shaped, I can't make it all out. And then suddenly someone pulled me off the boob and gave me to someone else, and I never saw my mother again. And that's why I'm 35 and I'm overweight and I feed myself with food all the time because I'm in so much pain. And I'm dysfunctional as an adult. That's a real story I just gave you, a true story. That's a man who was taken into a relaxed state, talked directly to the unconscious, and he remembered at 2 weeks of age. It was the last time he saw his mother. He was adopted. And although he didn't understand why he was the way he was as an adult, which was dysfunctional, unhappy, frustrated, angry, and obese. And the reason he was obese is because he was trying to numb his pain unconsciously. He didn't even know where it came from. And as soon as he had that experience, he remembered exactly what happened at 2 weeks of age. And then he could change it. Then he became free in that moment. And he's doing much better than ever now, that man, 6 months later. So this is what happens in your brain, right? It's a very complex piece of equipment. You add the mind to it. You've got all sorts of stuff going on up there. Nobody teaches you about this stuff until you come to a room like this, or you start listening to Tony, or you go to a workshop. Now, you can only get so much by listening to someone on YouTube. You can only get so much by actually going, to learn something online. And you can get a lot from coming to a 3-hour workshop. But the more you immerse yourself in this information, the more you practice it, the better your results are. The problem is that we're all creatures of habit. Every single person is a creature of habit because that's how we are. So we get used to being lazy. We get used to feeling comfortable. And a lot of you are in a comfort zone. How many of you know what a comfort zone is? Raise your hand. Yeah, you're in a comfort zone. So what happens is that what that means is that if you're in a comfort zone, that's your comfort zone. This is you, right in the middle. And this is the area that you are comfortable operating inside of. Don't mind doing anything as long as it's in your comfort zone. But as soon as somebody says, hey, you know what? You need to step outside of your comfort zone. If you want that. If you say you want that, it means you go outside of your comfort zone. And then what happens is, although you recognize what you want is outside of your comfort zone consciously, unconsciously, your ego says, hang on a second, I'm not going out there. You're crazy. This is more comfortable here. Let's stay here. Let's watch TV. Relax. Don't work so hard. That getting rich stuff, leave that. It's not for you. And then people start saying, oh, maybe God doesn't want me to be rich. I hear people say that all the time. I don't think God wants me to be rich. Maybe rich is overrated. Who's ever heard somebody say something like that? Yeah, what a lot of baloney. Maybe rich is overrated. It's your duty to be rich. Yeah, here's the interesting thing though. I'm talking financially rich, right? It's your duty to be financially rich. Here's the interesting thing. You're already rich. Every single one of you is already rich. Because you've got the most powerful piece of equipment right here. And you've got a nervous system, and you've got a creative mind, and you've got this amazing faculty, the ability to remember something, the ability to create something in your mind in the future. It's amazing equipment. You got everything you need. So you're already rich. And rich means what? R-I-C-H. Realizing that I create my happiness. Rich. If you can create your happiness in the moment all the time, then you're rich already. But here's the paradox though, right? Here's what most people don't understand. If you can practice being happy and stay in an empowering emotion, stay away from disempowering emotions and put yourself in a state of gratitude all the time, appreciation, and always look for the good in things, and welcome problems as much as you welcome opportunities, and recognize that everything's connected, and just keep practicing being happy, and keep practicing putting yourself in a beautiful state, in a loving state, and practice being kind to yourself every day. Then just a matter of time before you start seeing the dollars and the money and the opportunities and the financial wealth and the materialistic wealth. If you want that, you can have that too. So, you've got to get outside of your comfort zone to make that happen, right? Everybody wants to be successful. If success is, and if we use this iceberg, right? This big iceberg here that sticks out of the water. Now, if you've ever been next to one of these icebergs, you know they're like massive buildings, right? When you're standing on the deck of a boat. But this is the smallest part of the iceberg you can see. But if you were thinking about success, this would be the equivalent to somebody's success, right? That's what you can see. So you see somebody online, you see somebody on Instagram, you see somebody in a movie, on a TV, an interview, etc., and you get inspired by their success. Robert Downey Jr., Sylvester Stallone, Oprah Winfrey, etc. All these people we see on TV. And we say, wow, amazing success. I want to have that same kind of success. I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. How many of you ever had this when you saw someone else's success? You think, I can do that too. I'm sure I can do that. Yes. Now, the challenge is though, your mind likes to be comfortable. Your ego wants to be comfortable. It doesn't want to do too much hard work. Because it's a creature of habit. And it always says, you know what, let's do it on Monday. We'll start on Monday, yeah? Yeah, we'll start January. It's October now, let's start January. What we'll do is we'll just get ready, we'll get prepared for January. When January comes, we go for it. That's what your mind does, right? So, this is what really happens. When you want to be successful, this is the stuff that you don't see. This is the iceberg you don't see under the water, the biggest part of the iceberg. This is the rejections, the late nights, the hard work, the long plane journeys, the disappointments, the adversity, the pain, the no's. Knocking on the doors all the time, getting no, and wondering if you're ever going to get a yes. This is all the stuff that people want to avoid. Criticism, doubts, rejection, sacrifices. They want to avoid this part, yeah. Why? Because it's painful. People don't like pain. They don't like hearing someone say no. I'll give you a very good example of this. Raise your hand if you're in sales. If you sell something. Raise your hand if you're not in sales. You're lying. Everybody's in sales. You just got to admit that fact, right? Everyone's in sales. You have to sell yourself all the time. First to yourself and then to other people. So if you think you're not in sales, you're deluded. Think about that, right? Now, most people are afraid of selling. That's why they don't want to get into sales. You know why? Because they hate hearing the word no. Because they're afraid of what no means. She said no to me. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm ugly. Maybe I'm not attractive. Maybe they don't like me. Why would they say no? Well, why not? Sometimes people say no. It's not a big deal. It's just a word. People are so afraid of it. Yeah? So they're afraid of this. Because this means no. And what does no really mean? Well, no really means, in our own head, individually, what we've made no mean over the years that we've been growing up. Because we connected it to pain. And what it means for us is no means I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And if I'm not good enough, I won't be loved. And that's what we're really afraid of. That's what we really are afraid of. That's what scares the shit out of us. Oh my God, what happens if they leave me? What happens if they find out I'm not good enough and they leave? That's the worst. Because humiliation is the thing that scares us the most. And we've all been humiliated and we've all had that same kind of pain when we were kids. When our parents left, we experienced that kind of pain. When our parents left us with someone else, we experienced that kind of pain. When your parents scolded you for the first time, you experienced that kind of pain. When you got your first hiding, if you ever had a hiding, raise your hand if you had a hiding when you were young, like me. I got plenty of, what, only 5 of us? Wow. I got plenty of hiding when I was a kid. Plenty. I remember the first time my father shouted at me. I was about 5. It was the first time I can remember it properly. Now, I only remembered this experience when I was 30, when I was in a program similar to this. It was a 3-day program. And a young man stood up and started talking about the relationship that he had with his father. And I thought, wow, that's my relationship that he's talking about with my father. He's talking about my life. And I suddenly remembered a moment when I was 5. My father came home from work and I ran up to him and I put my arms around his legs, just like I did every day. Dad, pick me up, Dad, pick me up, Dad, pick me up, pick me up. Not now, son, I'm busy. That was the reaction I got that day. Now, that was the first time that ever happened. Because my dad used to pick me up and throw me in the air. He was a big guy, 6'4", strong man. He'd throw me in the air and it was awesome. Loved it. He'd throw me in the air in the swimming pool, in the sea. It was great. And that day, he shouted at me. I never saw that face before that day. Never heard that voice. I froze. Can you imagine? A 5-year-old, if you did that as a father, just out of the blue, for no reason, apparent reason. Imagine a 5-year-old has no understanding of what just happened. Now, I wasn't as smart as I am now, so I couldn't do this. Oh, okay, Dad. I can see you not feeling good right now. I'll come back when you're feeling good. I was only 5, right? So I froze and I ran into my bedroom and I fell on the bed crying and I said this question to myself. This is what I asked myself. Now, remember, only when I was 30, when I remembered that. But I remembered it as clear as day and I remembered exactly what I asked myself in that moment. 25 years earlier, I said, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? I must have done something wrong. And I was looking for what I'd done wrong in my head. And I was convinced I did something wrong. Because I couldn't understand what happened. Because something that my father always does, now suddenly there was a different reaction. And I was trying to work out what I did wrong. And then as I got older, anytime I had a clash with my father was very strict. And the stricter he was, the more rebellious I became. Raise your hand if you were that kind of kid, when you were like me, as rebellious. Keep your hand if you had a strict father. My father was a very strict man, very disciplinarian. He went to school until the age of 12. He had to leave school at 12. Before he left school at 12, he used to walk to school, bare feet, because they had no money, my grandparents. When my grandfather went to the war, went away to the army, and to the war, my father had to stop going to school, he had to start working. So my father's intention and purpose was to pay for my schooling. He wanted me to have a good education. And he kept reminding me about how expensive it was. Because he sent me to 2 private schools. 2 private schools that were both Catholic. And he kept reminding me how expensive it was. So the more rebellious I became, the stricter he became. The stricter he became, the more rebellious I became, until I was breaking the rules all the time. And every time we had a clash, in my head I'd say, you see, Dad doesn't love me. Dad doesn't have time for me. Dad's an arsehole. And eventually I just thought my dad was an arsehole. And we just didn't have any relationship. Until I was living in London, I was 26 years of age, 30 years of age, and I remember having this experience. And I went outside the room, I picked up the phone, I phoned my dad for the first time in about 7 months. I used to phone my dad, my parents every now and again when I remembered, oh yeah, I haven't spoken to my parents for, I better let them know I'm still alive. They couldn't get hold of me in those days, but I would just get hold of them. And then I'd phone them, my mom and say, where have you been? We haven't heard from you, I thought you were dead. And I phoned my dad that weekend and I said, hey, Dad, listen, don't talk. Just listen, I need to tell you something. And I told my dad about all the times I'd made him wrong in my head. And what I made him mean, that he didn't have time for me, when I didn't recognize that actually what he was doing was the best he could at the time, in order to give me the best possible existence that he could, so I could get an education. But I couldn't experience it in that way at that time. I didn't appreciate it. In that phone call, we fell in love. We became best friends in that phone call. And we remained best friends for the rest of my time together until he passed on. But it took me taking responsibility for that, having that insight. But I didn't remember what happened until that moment, when it happened at 5. Now, were there other experiences like that before that? Probably yes. With my mother's daughters, with my cousins. There were lots of experiences when I was young, when I was humiliated, I was teased, I was bullied. I had a funny nose, I was teased about my nose all the time. I was bullied a lot, I was a tiny little kid, skinny, tiny little kid. So I worked out that if I became funny, if I made people laugh, they'd accept me. So I became funny, I made people laugh, and I found the biggest boys in the school and I made them laugh. And because I made them laugh, they said I could hang around with them. And then I didn't get bullied anymore, because I had my big friends behind me. But I worked out how to get my way in life. Now, I formed an identity, I formed a persona. I made people laugh to be accepted. Every single one of us has done this as a kid. We've worked out a particular identity and a particular strategy in order to get what we want, so we can avoid pain. The problem is, it's not who you are. It's persona. It's an identity. It's an identity that's flawed, and it's been created out of the need to avoid pain, which will never give you what you want, ever. You will never get what you really want if you're always looking at what you don't want. Raise your hand if you understand. You need to take your eyes off what you don't want and focus on what you want and what's available, and keep your eyes on that all the time, and start to appreciate everything that shows up. And start looking at where you need to rewire yourself and reframe some of the experiences of your past. And sometimes all it takes is doing that, is reframing, rewiring. But you've got to put yourself in that environment and make the commitment and do the work. And then things will change. And then all you've got to do is keep the momentum, and amazing things happen. So, everybody wants to be successful. Very few people are willing to do that. But if you're willing to do this and go through this, no matter what anyone else says, no matter what your family say, now your family are going to call you crazy. How many of you already have family members who think you're crazy? Raise your hand. So you guys don't have to worry about anything, because they already think you're crazy. Just continue to let them think that, right? But just change course yourself. But when you go and hang out in an environment like with Tony Robbins, and you come back from there and you say, hey, wow, it's amazing, I did this weekend. And you're so excited, I'm going to do this in my life, I've got this vision. Then your family think you've joined a sect or a cult. Yeah? But all you've done is you've met yourself at a new level. When you really meet yourself at a new level, and you recognize who you really are, and you start recognizing your gifts, everything will change. But you have to be willing to do the work. So, success leaves clues. When I was young, much younger than I am now, and I started reading about success, I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be successful just like anyone else. I wanted to be rich when I was young. When we were young, when I was a young kid, I was an only child. My parents used to play golf. My mother started playing bowls, and my father still carried on playing golf. My father was a golf captain of a big club in South Africa, in Durban. Very popular golf club, very affluent, lots of affluent people there. And we weren't affluent. My parents never owned their own business, never owned their own property. So they worked for other people their whole life. My father was an engineer. After he left school at 12, many years later he went back to college and got his mechanical engineering diploma. And so he worked for a big company in the petroleum industry as an engineer. My mother was an accountant, but they never bought their own property ever. Never owned their own business. For them, their money went to my education and for their retirement. But my parents hung around with really rich people, and we went to their houses, and I used to see the kind of lifestyle they had, and I wanted that. When I was a kid, I thought, wow, this is how I live. And I said to my dad, how come we don't live in a house? He said, oh, we can't afford it, son. So I knew that I wanted to be wealthy, and I knew I wanted to be successful. And so what I did is I started looking for clues, right? I started to read books, etc. Initially, I started to read because I thought there was something wrong with me. You see, when I was a kid, I grew up right next door to a police station in South Africa. I grew up next to Point Road Police Station. Point Road is an area in Durban where I grew up. Durban is on the east coast of South Africa. And I grew up right next door to Point Road Police Station from the time I was born to the time I was 6. And Point Road was one of the toughest neighborhoods in South Africa in 1966 when I was born. One of the toughest. If you went all the way down to the end of Point Road, you came to the docks, the harbour. You didn't want to be down there after 5 p.m. in the evening. Especially if you're white. Especially if you're white. Now, I climbed on the wall one day and I heard a man screaming in the police yard next door. And I found a gap and I looked through that wall, that gap in the wall, and I watched a black man get beaten to death by a white policeman with a big stick. I was 4.5 years of age. It was a significant emotional event for me. It made me very upset. I never told anyone about it because I thought I would get into trouble, so I didn't tell anyone about it. But any time I heard a noise next door, I would always climb on the wall and have a look what's going next door. I was fascinated by it. I did that for about 18 months before we moved away from that place. It wasn't always brutal, but it was always fascinating. And when we moved to a different area, I was still exposed to the tough side of life because we lived in an area where a lot of people lived in the park because they had nowhere to live. There were a lot of elderly people there, people of mixed race, black people that had nowhere to live, and there were alcoholics, and there was lots of fighting, lots of stabbing. It was hectic, it was very intense. When I was 14, my best friend jumped out of his mother's window 9 floors, took his own life. It broke my heart. When I was 17, another best friend of mine jumped off a building, 20 floors. Took his own life, broke my heart. By the time I went to the army at 18, I'd already seen more than my fair share of death. I'd already lost more than my fair share of friends. Motorcycle accidents, drug overdoses, fighting, suicide. And then I went to the army at 18 because I wasn't academic, so I couldn't go to university. So I went straight to the army. It was compulsory in South Africa at that time. And I got trained, and I got trained, and I got trained, and I got trained. I was sent all over the country. Anywhere there was unrest, anytime there was rioting, anytime there was unrest, I was sent there. In 87, I was sent to Angola for 7 months during the height of the civil war in Angola at that time. It was a war that went on for many years. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed in that war. And in 87, South Africa was sent there. It was illegal for us to be there. So nobody knew we went. So it was a covert mission. 5,000 soldiers. I was one of them. And we were fighting against 52,000 enemy soldiers that were Russian funded and Russian led, Russian artillery, as well as Cubans. 52,000 in different sized camps all over Angola. And we went up there with 5,000 mechanized infantry, tanks, jets, cannons, etc. And for the first 2 weeks we drove around the bush looking for the enemy until we found them. And we found 4 Russian tanks and they took us out. And the first combat we went into, it lasted about 2 minutes. Within seconds of running into the enemy, there was rifle fire, mortars going off, screaming, the doors opened. I jumped out of the door with all my webbing on, my mortar pipe. I was a patrol mortarist. So a short mortar pipe, 60mm mortars, with an RPG-7 rocket launcher on my back. And I jumped out of the door, and as I jumped out, a bullet hit the door and ricocheted. The ricochet, I heard it in my ear, and I felt the puff of air on my face from that bullet. Lucky the bullet went somewhere else and not inside the vehicle, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But as I jumped out and I hit the floor, one of our cars, who was to the left of us, about 75 meters in front of us, a Russian tank took that vehicle out, and it went up in a puff of smoke. Exploded in a puff of smoke. Luckily, the troops that were in that vehicle were already out on the ground. But the driver and the gunner, they were still in there. Andre, Tom, and Frans Boelenbeek, 2 of my friends from Cape Town, they disappeared in a puff of smoke. They never felt any pain. It was over instantly for them. That was my first combat. During that combat, another car that was to the right, about 75 meters up front, was we had Alpha Bravo Charlie, and I was in the lieutenant's car behind. And that car there, the anti-air gun, I was sticking out the back with a twin-barrel machine gun for any anti-air attack. Russian MiG fighter jets that used to try to bomb us all the time. And a piece of shrapnel hit the tank, hit the vehicle he was in, and went in front of his head and took the back of his head out. And I only found out about it about 3 minutes after that attack, when we retreated, and a medic came running through the bush, and he said, "Who's got O positive blood?" I said, "Me." He said, "Follow me." And I ran through the bush behind him. And while we were running through the bush, there was mortars going off, rifle fire, people screaming. A MiG-27 flew over and dropped the bomb. Massive explosion. It was intense. It was like being inside, in one of those movies like Saving Private Ryan. You can't, the movie doesn't do it any justice, actually. And nobody can prepare you for that. It's crazy. And the medic disappeared over the ridge, and there was a big crater in the ground that had been caused by a MiG-27 bomb. It was the perfect place to treat the wounded soldiers out of the line of fire. And I descended to the bottom of this big hole in the ground, and there were all these soldiers lying there being wounded and being treated. And the medic grabbed my arm, he put a needle in my arm, and I watched my blood drain out of my arm down this tube into the arm of a soldier lying on the floor. I dropped to my knees and I began to wave the flies off his face. His face was full of flies. He had a beard, there was blood everywhere. I could see the back of his head was missing. I waved the flies off his face and said, "Please don't die, please don't die, please don't die. Please, God, get me home alive." And I looked. It was my friend, the one who was sticking out the back of that car. He died 3 hours later. And then every other day for 7 months, we went looking for the enemy. And every time we met the enemy, we got out of the vehicles, we encountered the enemy. I got out, I used my patrol mortar and my RPG-7 rocket launcher. And I did what I was trained to do. 7 months later, a plane landed. The back of the plane opened, and all these soldiers came off the plane. They were relieving us. It was time for us to go home. We were relieved, as you can imagine. And we got on the plane, and the plane flew us out. And 4 days later, I was standing at my camp in South Africa with my best uniform on in a parade. And the general of the South African army came down the line of soldiers, stood in front of me, put some medals on my chest, shook my hand, and said, "Thanks, have a great life." And I got on a train and I went home. My parents picked me up at the train station. They took me back to their flat. I walked into the flat. I walked to my father's liquor cabinet. I took the biggest bottle I could find. I went to my bedroom. I drank myself to sleep. I drank myself to sleep every day for 6 months. I had nightmares for 9 years. Post-traumatic stress for 7 years. I was very unconscious, always uncomfortable, very angry, very violent, very aggressive. I used to have nightmares, so I drank myself into sleep, so I would have no nightmares, became unconscious on a regular basis. I locked myself in my bedroom for 6 months. I didn't trust myself around other people. I did not like people at that point in my life. I did not like myself at that point in my life. I was trying to come to terms with what had happened in Angola, what I had seen and what I had done. I was feeling a tremendous amount of shame and guilt. There was a noise in my head all the time. I had a voice all the time. They were always telling me all the time, just all talking crap all the time. It was more than one voice, in fact. And so I started getting high. I started smoking marijuana at the age of 14. By that time, I was now 21 years of age, and I was smoking marijuana every day, just to numb the pain, and drinking every day. And then 6 months after I got home, I bumped into a good friend of mine, and he gave me a book to read. He said, "You must read this book." And on the cover of the book, it said, "Think and Grow Rich" by Napoleon Hill. How many of you read this book? Yeah, it's an amazing book. If you haven't read this book, you should get it and read it. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. That was July of 1988. I read that book 3 times over the following 6 weeks. And when I went back to my friend's place, I said, "This book is amazing." He said, "Now read that one and read that one." And he became my library. He had all these books in his flat. He was in the same operation as me. He was a medevac. While I was on the front line, he was flying into Angola in a chopper, landing and taking the wounded back to the hospital. We only found out 6 months later when we were at home. 7 months later at home, we bumped each other in the street. And he asked me where I'd been, and I said I was in the army. He said, "Me too." And he told me that he was in a chopper flying into Angola. I said, "I was on the front line." He said, "What?" It must have been intense. And he took me up to his flat and he introduced me to psychology. It was July of 1988. That's 30 years ago now. Over 30 years ago. I became a student that day. When I started reading Think and Grow Rich, I became a student for the first time in my life. I'd never considered myself a student prior to that moment. I wasn't into studying anything. I wasn't into school. I thought school sucked. I still do think school sucks. My children always say to me, "Allan," they always say, "Dad, if you think school sucks, how come we have to go to school?" I said, "Because you have to." But even though they have to go to school, I'll make sure my kids are reading other stuff outside of the school curriculum. My son has done UPW twice with Tony Robbins. Once when he was 14, and then when he was 15. Sorry, once when he was 12, and then when he was 14. My daughter did it when she was 12. She'll be doing it next year when she's 14. My kids have read books like Rich Teen, Poor Teen, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Millionaire Next Door, Unlimited Power, Awaken the Giant Within. My kids have been, I've brainwashed my kids from the time they're born. Yeah, I want to be the one to brainwash my kids, not some other idiot who's always complaining about life. Raise your hand if you understand. Yes. And most of the time your kids will be brainwashed by a teacher who's very unhappy. Nothing against teachers. Some of my friends are the greatest teachers that I've ever met. However, a lot of teachers are very bitter and unhappy and just doing a mediocre job with your kids. And your kids are not being prepared for the world that will wait for them when they arrive there. You better do the work for them too. You better encourage them to read other stuff. So don't rely on just schooling for their education. You've got to give them specific and a specific type of powerful knowledge that will introduce them to the internal parameters of their mind, right? The internal domain. You've got to educate your kids on that, what's going on the inside, so they can be more effective on the outside when they're older. That's what I've been doing with my kids. But that was the kind of kid I was, right? That's what the kind of youth I had. So by the time I was 21, I was messed up. And I was messed up for a long time, and I stayed messed up for a long time. But that day, in July of 1988, when I began to read that book for the first time, something changed inside me. The light came on for the first time. And I saw a light at the end of a dark tunnel for the first time in my life. Now, did I change my life overnight? No. It took me about 11 years to get to a place where I'm doing okay. I had post-traumatic stress, so it was quite difficult in the beginning. But what happened to me 11 years after I got that book, Think and Grow Rich, 11 years later, it was 1999. A lot happened in between that time. I'd read a lot of books by that time. I went to a lot of workshops. I went to Landmark Education, went through so many different programs, bought cassettes, bought all kinds of stuff. I had loads of books. I was collecting books. And 11 years later, I was still unhappy. In fact, 11 years later, in May of 1999, I was now working in London. I left South Africa in 1990, and in 1999 I was working in London in Credit Suisse at Canary Wharf for a bank, Credit Suisse Bank. I was in IT, and I was making £25 an hour. I was working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, £25 an hour. That's good money, right? I remember I phoned my dad once and said, "Hey Dad, I work in a bank now. I'm in IT." Remember me, I got E for enough when I left school. And I'm working in IT, Dad, it's cool, right? £25 an hour. Making like $5 grand a week. He said, "That's good, son, are you saving?" I did not tell my dad. What I did not tell my dad in that conversation is that I was broke, 65 grand in debt in May of 1999. I did not tell my dad that I had nowhere to sleep and I was sleeping on my friend's couch in May of 1999. I did not tell my dad that I was addicted to cocaine at that point in my life and had been for 5 years. And I did not tell my dad I was suicidal and thought about jumping under a train every night. And the only thing that kept me from jumping under the train every night was the little voice that I used to put in the cassette player, the voice of Tony Robbins. And every time I put the cassette in, he said, "This too shall pass." Then I would rewind. "This too shall pass." Rewind. I kept hanging on to that phrase because I believed something, somewhere inside of me, luckily I believed that at some point I was going to come out of the other side of this hellhole that I was living in. But I'd been there for a long time. Because I knew what to do, but I wasn't doing it. My head was full of knowledge. I'd been reading book after book, course after course, cassette after cassette. Full of knowledge in my head. I had a very good memory. I developed an amazing memory. I've got an amazing memory. And I could remember stuff, but remember the stuff I'd read. But I wasn't applying it. So I was extremely unhappy. I was suicidal. And what I hadn't dealt with was some of the stuff in my past. I hadn't dealt with it properly. I buried it. I buried it under alcohol, drugs, sex, clubbing, and I wasn't dealing with it. But my head was full of knowledge, and I was arrogant, and I was pissed off because I hated myself. So I was pissed off about everything. Raise your hand if you can understand where I was in my emotional state. And then one day I turned the paper and I saw an advert and it said, "Unleash the power within," and a picture of Tony Robbins. And it said 3rd of July, Cardiff, Wales. And it had a phone number and the price was £900. And the voice in my head, I was at work, it was a Tuesday morning, I remember. Terrible Tuesdays, I used to call them. Because I was coming down after a heavy weekend. And I saw this advert and a voice in my head said, "It's a sign." Another voice in my head said, "Oh yeah? How are you going to pay for it? It's £900. And it's in Cardiff, Wales. It's 4 days. 4 days, no pay. Can you afford it? You haven't got the money for it. You can't go to Cardiff. It's a waste of time. You've been reading the book. The first book I bought when I arrived in London in 1990, the very first book I bought was Tony Robbins, Unlimited Power. I bought 2 cassette tapes that same day. Awaken the Giant Within and Giant Steps, read by Tony. So the voice in my head said, "You've read the books. You listen to the guy on the cassette tape all the time. Don't waste your time. Cardiff, Wales, it's a long way away. It's 4 hours away. It's 4 days, no pay. Besides, where are you going to stay? You've got no money. Where are you going to live for 4 days? How are you going to pay for a hotel? You've got no credit card. It's maxed out. You're overdrawn. You borrow, you broke 65. This is my voice inside my head. And I said, "I'll find a way. How can I make it happen? I've got to go see this guy. I need help. This guy can help me. I need some help." I was at that point, where I needed help. Like, otherwise it was a train. Because every night I lay on this couch in my friend's living room where I lived, my friend's sleeper couch, and the voice in me said, in my head said, "Hey, listen, just go down to the train station, the pain will be over like that, boom, quickly. You just go all the way up the track, catch the train while it's moving quickly, you won't feel a thing." Then I put the cassette in. "This too shall pass." I was praying, please, I hope it's going to pass sometime soon. Then I saw this advert. So while I'm thinking, how can I pay for it? 900 quid, I can make it happen, I've got to find a way. The door opened and in came my friend. He was starting work with me at 7:30. Danny, his name was Danny. Same name as my dad, actually, my son, Daniel. I said, "Danny, come here, mate." Put my arm around him. I said, "Listen, mate, can you lend me £900 to go see this guy?" "What? You owe me money already. Now you want another £900? You already owe me some money." "And who's this guy anyway?" "This is Tony Robbins. This guy can help me. I need help." "What do you mean you need help? What do you mean you need help? What do you mean?" And I told my friend honestly, I said, "Man, I'm serious. I need help, man. I'm addicted to cocaine. I use it just to get through the day. I'm angry. I'm depressed. Angry, depressed. Angry, depressed. I'm suicidal. I work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. I'm broke. I can't live like this. I'm in so much pain. I always think about jumping under the train. I need help. This man can help me. He's the best in the world." And he looked at me and his face softened. He said, "You really think he can help you?" I said, "Man, without a doubt. If he can't help me, I don't know, then there's no hope for me. But I think he can help me. I just got to get there." See, Tony had come to the UK twice before that, 93 and 96. I knew he came, but I wasn't ready. I was too busy partying. Too busy having a good time. But now I was in a lot of pain. It was 3 years after that now. The third time he's coming, I had to get there. I had to get there. So my friend, he said, "Let's do it." He bought me a ticket on the spot. We found that phone number, he bought me a ticket on his card. And the workshop was 2 months away. But already in that moment, I already felt better. Because I had something to look forward to. And I began to plan. I said, good. I told my boss, I said, "I'm going to take those 4 days off. In fact, I'm taking 6 days off. The day before and the day after. Because I'm going to get there and I'm going to get back." I knew how to get there and get back. It was fun. I had a motorcycle, 1000cc. I still love riding motorbikes. I could get there, no problem. I could find 15 pounds to fill up the tank. No problem. But how was it going to, when I get there, where am I going to stay? So then I remember, I said, "Oh, I've got an idea." So what I did was I phoned my ex-girlfriend. Her name was Alison. Bless her soul. She's also a psychologist. She used to also work in a bank. I phoned her up. I said, "Listen, Ali, you like Tony Robbins, don't you?" She said, "Yeah, I love that guy." I said, "He's coming to Cardiff, Wales in July. I'm going to go see him. Why don't you come with me?" She said, "Okay, it's a good idea." She actually got her boss to pay for it, right? So she was smart. She got her boss to pay for it. And she came, and I knew she would get a hotel. So when I got there the day before, I phoned her. I said, "Where you stay?" She said, "I'm staying in the hotel." I said, "Can I come and stay with you, please? I've got nowhere to stay." She said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I'm broke. I've got nowhere to stay. I've got here, but I've got nowhere to live." She said, "Okay, you can stay here, but you stay on the floor." So I slept on the floor in a room, but at least I had somewhere to stay. The first day, when we were in the room, Tony came onto the stage the first day, and I knew I was in the right place at the right time. And I said a little prayer to my friend for getting me there, and I made a commitment. I was going to play full out. I came to change my life that weekend, and I did change my life. On the third day, I got the microphone. I was talking to Tony. I said, "Man," I said, "I love you so much." I said, "I can't believe I'm here." I said, "This has been an amazing weekend for me. It's day 3 only, and I can't wait for tomorrow." I was crying when this was happening, right? Crying. The camera was on me, and my face was on a big screen in front of 1,500 people. I thought, "Oh my God, I look terrible." But I continued to tell Tony how much I loved him and how grateful I was for his training, right? And I told him, "I've been listening to you for 9 years. Since I bought your cassette in 1990, I've read your books." I said, "You've saved my life so many times already." He said, "Really?" Now, how many of you have seen this movie, I'm Not Your Guru, on Netflix? It's a documentary, right? Which is a 90-minute documentary of Tony's 6-day Date with Destiny program, which was filmed in Florida when I was there. I was there in Florida when it happened. And it's a brilliant documentary, right? Now, if you've ever seen Tony work with people, you know he's very clever. He gets inside your head quick. He came down off the stage to me, towards me. I threw the microphone. I climbed out from the chairs. I was near the back. I ran down the aisle towards him. About 3 feet away from him, I took off. And lucky he caught me. I wrapped myself around like a monkey, right? Legs, arms, I was held on. I hugged him, it was so amazing. He hugged me too, and eventually I put my feet on the floor, and he grabbed my head with his big hands, and I was like this. But he got inside my head. He asked me a couple of questions, and all this stuff about Angola came out in front of all these people. It was like a volcano erupted. And then he looked at me, held my hand, he said, "Everybody deserves a second chance, even you." He said, "Everyone deserves a magnificent life, even you. It's time to take the past and put it in the past, take the lesson, turn it into something good, find the gift." What it did was it reminded me about that thing that I'd read, 11 years earlier in Think and Grow Rich, the book, when Napoleon Hill says, "Every adversity has within it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit." I remember when I was 21, I read that line in that book, and my brain said, "Bullshit. How can war be beneficial? How does war serve me? The only thing war did for me was mess me up." But 11 years later, he said the same thing to me. He said, "Find the gift." He said, "And it's time to love yourself and forgive yourself." He said, "I can see you've been very hard on yourself." And he turned me around. He said, "I want you to let these people love you." And there were 1,500 people on their feet. And love hit me like a truck. I fell against him. I dropped to my knees. I sobbed like a baby for like 3 minutes. And everything that I had suppressed since I was a kid started lifting off me. It was like a spiritual transformation to me. I cried for 9 months. It was like giving birth. It was the closest I've ever come to experiencing a big birth, right? But it was an amazing experience for me. But what I did was that weekend I made a commitment. The next chance that I got, I went to the back of the room and I got a form for Mastery University, which is Tony's next 3 programs after UPW. Life and Wealth Mastery, Date with Destiny. While I was filling it in, the voice in my head said, Allan, what are you doing? Are you crazy? It's 10,000 pounds. It's not 900 pounds, it's 10,000. And it's in California, and it's in Las Vegas. How are you going to get there? Are you mad? I'll find a way. I filled in the form. I said to the lady, I gave her the form. I said, I don't have any payment details on the card. You only got my name and address, my phone number. And I was holding the form still, and she had the form too. And I said, I didn't let go. And she was like tug of war with me. I said, look here, I've got no money. I said, but look here, I will find it. I'll find it soon. Do you believe me? She said, I believe you. I let go. 2 weeks later, I found that money, by magic. The money just showed up. I paid for the course, I paid for the flights. I planned the next 2 years of my life. I began to plan it right then. I planned it all out. I knew when I was going to be in the course in California. I knew when I'd be in the next course and in the next course. I knew what I was going to do in between. And I said, on the 25th, in November 2001, I'm going to get on a plane. I'm going back to South Africa. And I'm going to take everything I learned from this man, Tony. I'm going to take it back to South Africa. I'm going to make a difference in my own country. That's exactly what I did. I went looking for success. I found it. I copied what I learned. I began to apply it properly from that moment. I began to apply. That was 1999, yes? In 2001, I went to the leadership program. I made another decision. I said, you know what? I'm going to be a trainer for Tony Robbins one day. I want to wear one of those shirts. Those days we used to wear red shirts. Trainer. And I saw the people in the room wearing a red shirt. I said, I want to be one of those people. That dream came true too, several years later. Now, 4 years after that experience in 1999 in Cardiff, Wales with Tony, 4 years later, I woke up one morning. I was in South Africa. I woke up one morning. I got out of bed. It was about 4:45 in the morning. I went out into my lounge. I had an open plan house. I opened the sliding doors. I walked out onto my deck. I had a big rolling garden with a big swimming pool. And I watched the sun come off the sea at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I was living in a big house with 2 beautiful cars and an office under my house. And I was rich financially. I was making more money than I ever dreamed possible. I used to preach myself every morning and say, thank you God, I'm so blessed. It's great to be alive. Today's my favorite day. I say that every morning. First thing I do when I wake up. 4 years later, my life was completely different. I was playing golf 3 times a week. I could see the golf course. I ran along the sea. I lived on a house on a hill, 180-degree sea view. I played golf 3 times a week. I made more money than I ever dreamed possible. I started working with the Natal Sharks rugby team, one of the best rugby teams in the world. 8 Springboks in the team, 8 world champions in the team. I taught them what I learned from Tony. I couldn't believe it was actually happening, actually. Because when I was a kid, I grew up watching the Sharks. And now I was training the Sharks. I tell you that not to impress you, my friends, but to demonstrate to you what happens when you make a decision and you go for it without any consideration of what may go wrong. Because you trust yourself. You think, you know what, if something goes wrong, I'll work it out. That's what I did. I just became absolutely certain. I just put all my certainty in myself, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to stop talking about it. I'm going to do it. I've been talking about it for years. It's time to do. It's time to act. And I acted, and my life completely shifted. I became a father. I became a leader. I became a great influence for kids. I started speaking to schools. I work with kids on crack. I work with women who have been raped. I work with ex-military personnel with post-traumatic stress. I work with ex-police personnel who are completely traumatized. I've traveled all around the world sharing my story now. Now, has it always been up? No, it's been up and down since then. It's just that I don't spend too much time down anymore. I used to be angry all the time. Now I allow myself to be angry for a very short space of time, and then I get back to the other place called love. I tell you this because these tools changed my life. And they'll change yours too, absolutely. Now, why are you here? You could be here for a number of different reasons, right? Any one of 100 reasons. But I'm going to make the assumption that you all came here for very similar reasons. It's very similar. Very similar. Human beings are very similar wherever you go. We just make things complex and complicated. But basically, we all have similar dreams and visions. We all want to be happy. We all want to be fulfilled. We all want to be able to live our own lives. We want to be financially independent. Be able to go on the odd holiday now and again, feed our kids, and just have great fun, right? And we also have the same fears that we're all trying to avoid. Very similar fears. So we're usually all the same, really, individually. If you come together and you just look at us, right? It doesn't matter where you go around the world. You're sure we've got different cultures, we have different religions, different sexes, different preferences and orientations, but ultimately we are the same in terms of what we desire and what we fear. So what you got to do is you got to discover what it is for you. You got to decide, what do you want? You got to know what you want, you got to know why you want it, and then you got to go for it. And will you make mistakes? Of course you'll make mistakes. Will you mess it up? Of course you'll mess it up. 6 years after what I've just told you, where I was 4 years later after UPW, I was experiencing a rich life, financially and emotionally. 6 years later, I lost everything. I had nothing. I couldn't even buy myself a cup of tea. And I slept in a train station in London because I had nowhere to go. And I was too ashamed to pick up the phone. I could have phoned any one of 10 friends who would have taken me in that night. But I knew if I phoned them, they would ask me questions I wasn't ready to answer. So I didn't do it. They would ask me about why I don't have anywhere to live. Why am I on my own? What happened to my wife and my kids? And I have to tell them that I had an affair, that I made a mistake, that I separated from my wife, and I broke my kid's heart, and I lost my business, and I lost everything. I'd have to tell them about all the mistakes I made. I wasn't ready to do that then. So I slept in the train station. But while I slept in that train station that night and I didn't sleep, I sat there thinking about where I'd been, where I came from, and where I was then. And I began to ask the questions that I've been coaching my clients to ask. The same kinds of questions that I learned from my teachers. What can I appreciate about this experience? When I sat in that station that night, I was cold, and I asked myself, what can I appreciate about this experience? My brain said, nothing, you idiot. You lost it. You lost everything. You had it all. You had it. It was amazing. You had everything in the palm of your hand, and you messed it up. I said, what can I appreciate? If I could find something to appreciate, what might it be? My brain said, nothing, you fool. Because the ego always wants to be right. But I kept asking the questions, what can I learn? What can I appreciate? And eventually the answer came, I'm alive. And I said, hallelujah, I'm alive. I could be dead. What else can I appreciate? Well, I could appreciate the fact that I've still got the intellectual property. And as I've been told many times by some of my mentors and my teachers, you've got to go bankrupt at least once or twice in your life before you really make it. That was the second time for me. So I thought, okay, cool, this is cool. And I began to reframe it, right? I said, what else could be good about this experience? What else is good about this experience right now? I said, this could become a great story one day. An inspiring story for other people, perhaps. And I began to laugh at that. And the more I laughed, the more I tried to stifle my laughter. Because you know when you're in a public place right now, it's in the morning and people are starting to arrive to catch early trains. And I started chuckling to myself. And the more I chuckled, the more I tried to stifle it. But the more I tried to stifle it, the more it became louder and stronger. Until eventually I was rolling around and laughing to myself like a hyena, right? People thought I was crazy. But I was just completely present to the experience I was experiencing at that moment and how it had gone from where I was to the mountain and back down the other side. And I had to start climbing a new mountain. It took me about 2 years to climb out of that hole. And about 2012, I started to really get back into things, back into the groove. It's been 6 years now. And the last 6 years, I can tell you, honestly, been the best 6 years of my life. I've never been happier. My kids have healed. I've healed myself. I healed the relationship with my ex-wife. We are great friends. I can go around there anytime I want to. I can stay there whenever I want to. My son has become a beautiful young man. My daughter is becoming a beautiful young woman. I tell you that because when you get access to these tools and you really become conscious and you become authentic and you're not afraid to go for what you want, then everything, you can have everything you want. And every painful experience becomes a real gift and a real lesson. And it makes you wiser and stronger. Don't be one of those people who are afraid of the pain. Embrace it. It's better to embrace the pain and to live with the suffering. Raise your hand if you know somebody who's suffering. And they just continue suffering about the same shit. Because they're afraid to embrace the pain. Embrace the pain, release the suffering. So, what's in the way? How come everybody can't do this? Because it's available for everyone, right? It's available for everybody, including you. How come everyone can't do it? Because they keep focusing on loss. That's what creates suffering. Focusing on loss. Oh, I lost it. Oh, I lost her. I lost the opportunity. I lost the money. And they can't take their eyes off what they lost. And as long as you keep focusing on what you lost, you suffer. So eventually you've got to take your eyes off what you lost, and you've got to look at what you're going to appreciate in that moment right now, in the midst of your pain. Now, I'm going to give you a very real example of this. One of my best friends, who I'm going to see in December when we arrive in Florida, because he's also a trainer for Tony, one of Tony's top trainers, amazing guy. And my friend, when you meet this guy, you'll be inspired by him immediately because you could just feel his vibration. Such a powerful man he is. But here's a man who learned to stop focusing on what he had lost and to start appreciating what he had in the moment, even though what he lost would break most people's hearts and destroy most people's lives. Because my friend, and when I think about it, it makes me emotional just thinking about it, because I couldn't bear to go through what he went through. But his little daughter passed away at 5 years of age from cancer. And it broke his heart, obviously. And it broke my heart, it broke all his friends' heart, it broke his wife's heart. Eventually they got divorced. Sometimes it happens to a couple when they go through that kind of thing, it's just they can't deal with it together. So it was a lot of pain for a long time. But eventually what happened was he started to reframe the experience, because he's got the tools. And he started telling himself a different story about what happened. And now he tells the story that he was very gifted and blessed and fortunate to be able to live for 5 years with an angel before she went home. That's a different story to what most people tell themselves in that experience. Raise your hand if you understand that. That's the difference between pain and suffering. Because pain gives birth to something new, something more magnificent. Suffering just creates more suffering. And you never get to experience your real gift when you focus on what you lost. So my friend stopped focusing on what he lost. And he's now began to focus on what he appreciated. And what he appreciated was so many things about his daughter. And he began to list it about all the great things they had, all the great experiences they had together, and all the funny stories she told, all the times she made him laugh, even when she knew that she was going to die. She was 5 and she was so wise about her experience. And she kept comforting her dad, saying, "Hey Dad, don't worry about it, I'll always be with you. Even though you can't touch me, I'll be with you always." And he began to remember all those beautiful experiences. And it made him feel rich, in spite of the fact that his daughter was gone. Raise your hand if you understand that distinction, how powerful that is. Because what you're doing is you're rewiring your system. This takes conscious effort, but you need the tools. So that's why we're here tonight, right? To help you to get these tools, to introduce you to these tools. So as long as you focus on loss, you're going to suffer. Pain is temporary, suffering is lifetime. But it's always a choice. It's always a choice. People choose to be victims of their own lives. I've met all kinds of people who have suffered all kinds of trauma. And I've been inspired by some of the most amazing people that, in spite of the fact that they grew up in the toughest experiences, they had the toughest things done to them, abused, raped multiple times, they've had horrible things experienced, but they turned that around and they refused to be a victim of that story. But the majority of people continue to be a victim because they get to be right. And the ego loves to be right even when it makes itself wrong. That's how messed up you can be, right, as a human being. You can be right even though you're making yourself wrong. You still get to be right. So don't be one of those people, right? So now, very quickly, I'm going to give you just a little tool here to remind you of this. This area here represents the area that you can't control and can't influence. You can't control, can't influence that area at all. However, as human beings, we're always trying to control this area, and we're always we always complain about it. Even though we can't control it, we still complain about it. Why? And I'm talking about, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the government, the weather, the president, the prime minister, your spouse, your in-laws, your neighbors, the traffic, all those things that you complain about. Raise your hand if you complain about something, even though you know you can't control it. Yeah, great, thank you for being honest. Why do you complain about something if you can't control it? Because it gives you a false sense of certainty. Gives you a false sense of certainty. Because the ego loves being right. Even though it can't control something, it will still complain about it because it can be right and feel justified. Raise your hand if you understand. It's a false sense of security. Now, this is a human need. It's an emotional need. It's a need of the body. Everybody has the need to feel secure at some level. So you'll make stuff up just to feel yourself secure. Just to feel secure. You'll make something up. Even if it means complaining about something you can't control. Just to feel that false sense of security. Now, there are other needs too. How many of you understand the 6 human needs? You've come across this before from Tony. It's just a different model to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but very similar. So the second one is uncertainty or variety. Variety. Also known as uncertainty. That's what variety is, it's uncertainty. This is also a need for human beings. Because if you've got too much of this, what happens? You get bored. How many of you know when you get bored? It's just too much certainty, that's what it means, boredom. Oh, God, I know what's going to happen now. Oh, I know what you're going to say. I know what she's going to say. You get bored. So you need some variety too. The third one is significance. You also need to feel special. You also you've got this need to feel acknowledged or to feel like you have meaning. Your life has some kind of purpose, or to feel like you feel significant to other people. The fourth one is love and connection. Love and connection. Now, what's interesting about these first four, these are the needs of the body. Needs of the body. Physical needs. We've all got them. At different levels of intensity. For some of us, this is the most important one. This is the most important one for most women, generally. This one right here. For men, this is the most important one for most men, generally. But you also have women who like this one and they become masculine in the way they act. How many of you know a woman who's become masculine in her energy? And although she's beautiful, she's like a man. Raise your hand. Yeah, she's probably into this. Okay? How many of you know a man who's, although he's a man, he's quite feminine and very soft? Raise your hand. Yeah, because he's probably into safety. Yeah, so we have combinations of these things. The problem is when you have a man and a woman and both of them are trying to be a man. Because a lot of men don't like to sleep with another man if she's in a woman body. Understand? Yeah? So, you want to understand yourself. Ask yourself, which is my number one? Which is the most important one for me? For me, when I was a kid, it was safe and feeling special. I never felt special, especially to my father. I never felt like he loved me. I never heard him say that he loved me enough in my mind. Plus, we had all these experiences which I reinterpreted as him not loving me. Plus, I never felt safe because I was always bullied. I grew up right next door to a police station and I watched police bullying people. So I never felt safe. Plus, if you walked around in the streets of South Africa in those days, it was very dangerous. It's still dangerous. One of the most dangerous places in the world to live. So you grew up in that kind of environment where the consciousness is very heavy. Very heavy. It's fear-based consciousness. So I never felt safe. So this was number one for me, number 1 and 2. Right, we've all got all four. I also obviously wanted to be loved and feel connected. And I also loved variety. But these were more important. Now, here's the thing. All of us have these needs. And we all have ways of meeting these needs. Sometimes we're conscious about them, sometimes we're unconscious. Sometimes we're constructive, other times we're destructive. If you don't consciously choose how to meet these needs in a healthy way, you'll meet them unhealthy. You'll drink, you'll smoke, you'll take drugs, you'll have sex without meaning, you'll eat too much food, you'll watch TV, you'll sleep when you feel like you should be doing work. All of those things are just ways to meet your needs, but you're not conscious of it. You're doing it unhealthy. Raise your hand if you understand. So you want to ask yourself, what's my number one? What's my number 2? Why? Why is it number 1? Why is it number 2? How do I meet that need? In unhealthy ways? How do I meet that need in healthy ways? And then start becoming conscious and start flipping your unhealthy vehicles into making them positive. When I saw this for the first time in '99, in the physical environment, in the UPW workshop, now I had read about it before in Tony's book and I'd heard him talk about it. But when I saw it and I actually got into that environment for 4 days and we practiced it, and we could see it happening over and over again for everyone in the room. And Tony works with people one by one in the room. And you see it. You just see it. You become your own practical psychologist. Everything changed for me. Because I knew exactly why I was addicted to cocaine. I knew why I was clubbing 4 nights a week. I knew why I was hanging around in a disempowering environment. I knew why I couldn't change my life, in spite of the fact my head was full of knowledge. How many of you think knowledge is power? Raise your hand if you think knowledge is power. Bullshit. It's not true. Action is power. The ability to take action leads to power. Knowledge is only knowledge. Come on, man. The vast majority of the human race has got knowledge when they left school. Full of knowledge from school. What have they done with it? Diddly squat. Nothing. So knowledge means nothing unless you apply it consistently. Now, what type of knowledge? It must be specific and measurable. It's got to be specific and measurable, that type of knowledge. And it must be applied consistently in an intelligent fashion. Otherwise, it leads to no power. Raise your hand if you understand. You've got to be smart in your application. So it's going to be the right type of knowledge applied consistently in a smart way. So I believe knowledge is power at that time of my life. And my head was full of knowledge. But nothing was changing. And I was suicidal. But I could see how I was meeting my needs in an unhealthy way. And when you meet your needs at a level of 6 or above, it's an addiction. As it feeds you emotionally. As your body releases chemicals. So when you complain about something you can't control, your body releases chemicals and you feel a false sense of security. Plus, you feel very significant when you're complaining in your head. So now you feel important. If you complain to someone else and they listen, now you feel connected. Plus, it's variety. You've got a mixture of emotion. 5 minutes before you complain, you were feeling depressed. Now you're complaining, now you feel energized. Can you see how you meet all 4 of these needs by doing things that you don't serve you? Raise your hand. So, what's 5 and 6? Number 5 is growth. And number 6 is contribution. When you grow, You feel alive. There's nothing more powerful than you feel like you're growing on a regular basis. And when you're growing towards something worthwhile, that meets your needs at a deep level, that is connected to you at a spiritual level, that you feel is a big purpose, and you're doing something for a much bigger purpose than just yourself, that kind of growth means that now you can contribute to other people, emotionally, financially, psychologically. You can support other people on different levels. It's your duty to become the best person that you can be while you're alive here, to become the best person. Nothing wrong with you, but you want to become more of who you are, because you want to evolve. Most people have stopped evolving once they got to 7. Most adults, men especially, when you give them too much to do, or you overwhelm them, or you squeeze them, they act like a 5-year-old throwing their toys out of the cot. Raise your hand if you know. Especially if you give them too much alcohol, they start acting like a 5-year-old, right? So they're emotionally immature. Most people are emotionally immature, psychologically weak. You give them too much, they break. They freak out, they can't handle it, because they've got no trust in themselves, because they haven't done the work internally. The only work you need to be doing while you're alive is to work internally. When you work internally, everything else in the external comes in spades. So look at this, these first 4, ask yourself, and do this homework when you leave here. It's very important, it'll serve you. Say, what's my number 1, what's my number 2? Why are they important? How do I meet those needs? Healthy and unhealthy ways. And then you say, what do I need to do to meet these needs in healthy ways? At a 6 or above. Because when you can do that at a 6 or above in a healthy way, it'll become a lifestyle for you. And you'll be juiced by it, you'll be energized. It won't be a problem to go to the gym anymore. It won't be a problem to eat healthy. It'll be easy to give up smoking. It becomes easy because you're doing what's true for you at a deep level. And your authentic self feels fulfilled. And now you feel like you're growing, and now you can contribute and make a difference to other people. How many of you want to make a difference to other people? Raise your hand. You better get to work making a difference for yourself first. Take your game to the highest level. And you can serve other people just by showing up. Just by showing up, you can serve other people. If you're in the right vibration. Because you can become somebody who can heal people just by being around them. Raise your hand if you've heard of energy. Energy healing. Yeah. Just by being around the right person can heal you. Just by being around them vibrationally. So if you want to be that type of person, you may get to work. Now, let me tell you why I think you should be that type of person. Just my opinion anyway. But I think you should become that kind of person because the world needs you now, right now, more than ever. Raise your hand if you agree with me. The world's in a tough place right now. This country's in a tough place right now. How many of you know this country's going through a tough economic situation currently? Keep your hand up if it makes you uncomfortable at some level. If it makes you a little bit uncertain about your own future. Thank you for being honest. I appreciate that. So what's the solution to that then? You've got to build so much certainty inside of yourself, so much trust in yourself, so much faith in your ability to create the future you see in your mind, that no matter what anyone else tells you, you'll just say in your mind, you'll say that's your opinion, not mine. And you'll just continue on your dream and continue on your business. And when things go wrong, you'll turn them to your advantage. Like that man Honda. How many of you have heard of Honda? You know a company called Honda? They employ about 250,000 people worldwide. An amazing man. You should read about his life. I've got goosebumps now right now. You see my hair standing up on the end, right? When you read about that man's life, it will blow your mind. He dealt with challenge after challenge after challenge after challenge, including earthquakes. And he still built that company called Honda. And everyone said, you're crazy, it's never going to happen. And he still built it. Because he had so much faith in himself. And he didn't take anyone else's opinion. He only counted on his own. So, you want to become that kind of person because Romania needs you. I don't live here and I know they need you. I know I've got friends here. I've got friends from here who live in London. I know this country needs you. It's time to step up, pull your finger out your ass and do some graft. And you can only do that when you've got a good coach. How many of you know you need a great coach sometimes? You just need a good coach, a good kick up the backside. Good, because Tony's going to be that coach for you. And then you can change this model. Because now what you do is you won't worry about this model on the outside here. You won't worry about that area anymore. You stop complaining about it. When you stop complaining, you stop resisting. When you stop resisting, you can start accepting. When you can accept what shows up, you can use it. Now this area here is the area that you can influence. This is the area that you can influence. What can you influence? You can only influence people. That's all you can influence. However, when you become the kind of person who becomes very influential, you will also influence circumstances and events and experiences. Because it's vibrational and it's energetic. So you can influence someone on the other side of the world without even speaking to them if you have that kind of energy. Raise your hand if you understand or you agree with me. So, now the only area that you want to focus on is this area right here. This is the only thing you can control, this area. It's called your emotions. It's how you respond to the world. It's what you decide to do. It's what distinction you make. It's what meaning you give to something. It's what you make it mean. Does this mean my life is over? Or does this mean I'm just getting started? It's a very big difference. But it's only a difference in words. But it's a different reframe. Small distinction creates a massive difference. So, how many of you have heard of a man called Nick Vujicic? Nick Vujicic, born with no arms, no legs, with a little flipper foot. Travels around the world speaking to audiences all around the world. When Nick was young, he wanted to commit suicide. He hated life. He cursed God. How can you make me like there's no arms, no legs? How can I enjoy my life? He was suicidal and depressed. And then he changed the meaning. And now he's one of the most inspirational people you ever meet. And when you listen to him speak, you cry. He makes audiences cry all around the world. And kids are inspired by him. Once they listen to him, they're inspired to go after their dreams. Because he changed the meaning of his experience. That's what he did. He stopped focusing on what he couldn't control. He started focusing on how he responded every single day. How he responded to life. How am I going to respond to life? That's all I need to focus on. And now look at him. One of the richest people in the world. In terms of emotion, juice, friends, financially free, beautiful family, beautiful kids, surfs, jumps out of airplanes, snowboards, does everything that everyone with 2 arms and 2 legs can do, and he doesn't complain about life. And the world is full of people who have arms and legs and every opportunity available to them right in front of them, and they still complain. And some of them you know them intimately. Yes? So now, this shows you this what I've been talking about in a graphic. This shows